Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to make 3 cards. Each card is going to be of the same design, but it's going to be using different papers to get different effects. One is a Christmas card, one is a masculine card, and the other is a feminine card. I created my own card bases. I've cut a piece of A4 300 GSM cardstock in half, which gives me a card base of 5 7/8 by 4 1/8. And for this first card, I'm going to use the Kaisercraft Christmas Wishes papers. I've got this 6-inch pad that I had left over, and I'm trying to use up some of my leftovers. I choose 6 pattern papers from the pad, and I cut them so that they're layered. The bottom layer is 4 inches by 5 3/4 inches. That's the goldy coloured one. The pink paper is 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. Then I choose the one that's got the baubles on it. That is 2 1/2 inches by 4 inches. And the little piece that goes behind that piece is 2 inches by 1 inch. And then I also choose 2 other patterns, and I cut some 3/4 inch strips. I'm going to make some little pennants out of these. So I cut one at 2 1/4 inches and one at 2 inches. That's out of the same paper. And then the second paper that I choose for the pennants, I cut at 3/4 inch by 1 3/4 inches. Then I get busy and distress all of the edges and ink around all of the edges. I've cut this cut apart out of the pad. It's 3 inches square, and I'm going to use that as the focal point on the front of my card. I've given that the same treatment as the rest of the papers, but I have added a piece of chipboard to the back of it so it will stand up off of the background. I've applied double-sided tape to all of my papers, and I'm now going to attach them to my card base. I wanted to add another little embellishment to the front of the card, so I looked through the paper pad, found this circular embellishment, inked around the edge of it, and then attached it to the front of my card using some foam tape so that it too would have some dimension. So that finishes the first card, the Christmas card, and although it's not in the traditional Christmas colours, it still has a Christmas message. This second card is a masculine card, and I'm going to use Ultimate Crafts Gatsby papers for this one. I did buy the papers in a kit from Colette Mittiger some time ago. I reckon it would have to be at least 2 years ago, and so I thought I'd use some of those scraps up now. So once again, it's the same layout as the other card, and the measurements are the same. I'm using one of my self-cut card bases, which are 5 7/8 by 4 1/8. The bottom layer, which is this mustardy colour, is 5 3/4 inches long by 4 inches wide. The next pattern paper, which is it's not a pattern, it's a plain cardstock, the black cardstock, is 3 3/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 inches long. The gold pattern paper is 2 1/2 inches by 4 inches, and I've used a piece of printed vellum, so the vellum's got a gold print on it, and I've cut that so that it's about 2 inches by 1 inch. Once again, I've gone ahead, the pennants, I've also cut them the same size, so they're 3/4 inch wide, and when I cut the peaks in them, I think I came up 3/8 inch. No, I came up 1/2 inch, so each pennant is a 1/2 inch deep. Yeah, so I cut 3 of those, 2 in the plain mustardy colour and 1 in the pattern paper. I cut a car cut apart from the paper range to use as the focal point for the front of my card. Then I went ahead and attached all of the layers to the card base once I had distressed it with my distress tool and then inked around the edges. When I attached the vellum, I attached it actually to the pattern paper that it goes behind, so that I wouldn't have any tape showing above that paper. And once again, my focal point is mounted onto chipboard and then attached using glue. The greeting for this card came from a branding strip that I had saved from another paper range. I cut the greeting out of the strip, distressed the edge and inked around the edge, and then I attached that to a piece of the mustard cardstock and distressed and inked around the edge of that as well. Then I used foam tape to attach that to the front of the card. So that completes the masculine card, and you can see here the 2 cards side by side, and while they are exactly the same design, they look completely different. For the 3rd card, I'm going to use Kaisercraft's Secret Garden. I've got the paper pad and also a packet of the collectibles, which is where I chose my elements for the front of the card from. I have gone ahead and cut my papers exactly the same sizes as in the previous cards, and I have treated the edges exactly the same. I'm now using double-sided tape to attach those paper layers to the card base. The focal point that I've chosen for the front of this card is not as big as the others, so I'm going to cut an extra piece of pattern paper here, a piece of pink cardstock or pattern paper. I'm going to cut that 2 1/4 by 2 1/8, and I'm going to distress the edges of that, ink the edges of that, and then attach my focal point to that using foam tape. I put a piece of chipboard on the back of my pink pattern paper before I attach it to my card so that it has got that dimension to it. I'm going to add a couple of extra little embellishments to this card front. I'm using a butterfly and a little flower cluster from the collectibles pack. I do not like the white borders around elements on my cards, so I am cutting them off. I will then ink around the edge of them both and attach them to my card. To add a little bit of sparkle to my elements, I'm going to use my Uniquely Creative glitter pen in clear. I'm going to apply that to both the butterfly and the little flower cluster. So there we have it, 3 cards with the same design, but they all look different. I hope you've enjoyed watching my video today. I've enjoyed having you here with me. I would love it if you would share my video with your friends if you did enjoy it, and I'd also really love it if you came back to see my next video when I post it. If you have subscribed and you've clicked the bell next to the subscribe button, you'll be notified when I upload my next video.